guys, and welcome back to my channel. Now, if you've been following me on social media for any given amount of time, you would know that I am quite vocal about the lack of accessibility in Azerbaijan. Now, before I get some comments from Iraqçılar that are going to tell me to go back to my own country, I'd just like to mention that I'm not making this video to bash Azerbaijan or Azerbaijanis. In this video, what I want to do is talk about something that is far bigger than urban accessibility. I want to talk about the consequences people, disabled or able-bodied, face due to the lack of accessibility and proper urban planning in Azerbaijan. And FYI, India isn't wheelchair friendly either, so I wouldn't be gaining anything if I were to go back to my own country. So now, if you're a foreigner watching this video, you might have heard of Azerbaijan after 2011 when Nigar Jamal and Eldar Gasimov won the Eurovision Song Contest for Azerbaijan, which resulted in the infrastructure tremendously booming in the country. This was due to Azerbaijan having to be the host country for the Eurovision for 2012. Now, don't get me wrong, it's not that Baku looked like Chelyabinsk or some commie block-filled shithole in the middle of Russia that hasn't been touched before prior to the Eurovision Song Contest. Baku always had its uniqueness and maintained its cultural heritage. However, what does not often go with cultural heritage is accessibility, unfortunately. After 2011, you would see restaurants, cafes, and hotels being built more often in Azerbaijan. You would see new buildings coming up. You would see old buildings being demolished and replaced with novostroyki, which basically translates to new and modern buildings in Russian. Now, if you watch Roman Nofaker's on YouTube, you would know that he made a whole video about novostroyki in Russia because it's very common to have these novostroyki in post-Soviet countries as well as in Russia. These novostroyki do tend to have lifts. I mean, I'm living in one for the past 2 years, and some of them even have ramps and flat surfaces. I mean, my building has a ramp. It's extremely steep. I can't use it by myself. I could break my neck and just die on the spot while trying to get down 2 steps. But it's something better than nothing, right? However, regardless of all of this development in infrastructure, there was something that they forgot to add, and that was ramps that connect the sidewalk to the main road. So therefore, not only can people with wheelchairs face difficulties to travel within the city, but women with children on strollers also have difficulties to commute. I mean, yeah, people do tend to help. People are extremely helpful in Azerbaijan, and I'm so grateful for that. But why should they help me? Why should they help the woman with the baby? They shouldn't. Facilities should be made in the first place so that we are not put in a situation where we have to ask anybody for help and disrupt their day. But again, back in 2012, I was 14 years old. All I ever went to was school and back home. And to be fair, my school was pretty accessible, so it was okay. I had no complaints here and there. And again, many cities, even in Europe, were not as developed back in 2012 as it is now, so I wasn't missing out on much. But then came 2016 when the first Formula 1 race was supposed to be held in Azerbaijan. Still no accessibility. Formula 1 2017, still no accessibility. Formula 1 2018, I went for it. I had a fight with this friend of mine that I went for the race with due to the lack of accessibility. 2019, I went for the races last year. You can watch the video. I'm gonna leave the link to that in the description below if you haven't already. As you could have seen, still no accessibility. Now you could be like, Anjana, okay, put tourists aside. They just come for like a week or 10 days. How do people like you that live in the country 24/7 manage? Well, to answer your question, we need constant assistance. Thankfully, the internet exists, and in recent years, I came to understand that you do not have to live in cities like London or California to get ultimate accessibility as somebody that uses a wheelchair. Accessibility can be found in beautiful cities in Europe as well. I completely brushed over those cities because I was in an abusive relationship with my own city. Now you must be wondering, Anjana, are disabled people the only ones that struggle in Baku? No, of course not. Able-bodied people do struggle as well. A famous Russian YouTuber known as Varlamov visited Azerbaijan a few years ago and basically made a video called Apasny Baku, where he basically talks about how badly the streets have been structured and planned out for people to visit something as normal as a museum that is located in the center of the city.
Это Азербайджанский национальный музей. Здание находится в самом центре Баку. То есть вот сейчас мы с вами были там, и, как вы помните, там не было перехода. Вокруг здесь идет дорога, вокруг него и здесь нет перехода. И здесь нет перехода.
We're not talking about Ahmedli or Hazi Aslanov. We're talking about the center of the city, Sabayl Rayon. Like, forget people like me that use a wheelchair. Even people that can walk cannot cross the road safely enough without being worried that they'll get hit and thrown away into the abyss. Now in Baku, we have three main forms of public transport: subways, buses, and taxis. Unfortunately, public transport, however, is mainly exclusive to able-bodied folks. Yeah, you could say buses and London taxis do have wheelchair ramps, but it's not like the drivers are well trained for them to be able to park on a sidewalk that will not be steep enough for the person to be able to climb up the ramp by themselves without falling and hitting the back of their head, which will probably give them a concussion. So due to the inaccessibility, I found myself spending 30% of my wage on transportation alone. However, let's not make this about disabled old me. Able-bodied folks have also been finding themselves having to use taxi services such as Bolt and Uber since the pandemic hit due to public transport such as subways and buses being closed. I basically put up a question on Instagram asking people to share their experiences, and they had various things to complain about. Not only were they faced with taxi drivers that did not know the roads well enough, people have complained that they were asked to pay extra even though the fare was pretty low compared to what they demanded for. Some people even said that they were yelled at for not having enough change or doing something as innocent as opening the windows. People like myself that are disabled are often asked, why am I the way that I am? Or we encounter statements such as, "Hanım pis çıkmasın ama siz böyle anadan olmuşsunuz yoksa sonradan ele olmuşsunuz." And we feel pressured to have to answer these people, even though there's no reason for them to have to ask me this question. Sana ne? Okey, ben demişim ki anadan olmuşam da öyle. Ha, ne kazanmışsınız Mellim? Are you going to pay for my surgery? However, if you think about it on the grand scheme of things, all of these issues are not as big compared to women that are at risk of being sexually assaulted by these taxi app drivers. And unfortunately, it happens more often than not. A girl that would like to remain anonymous that recently was sexually harassed by her taxi app driver agreed for me to share her story with you guys. She texted me the entire thing in Russian, so you're going to have to bear with me through reading in Russian. And don't come for me if I have pronunciation issues, because I'm not Caucasian, I get that. But my mom is half Russian. I have more Russian blood in me than you. It's just that Russian is not my first language, so I might tend to have some mistakes. So forgive English, I am Russian. And with that being said, let's get into reading this story.
Это произошло по дороге домой к подруге. Я хотела выпить, поэтому я не поехала на своей машине. Заказала, заказ принял сразу. Была я одета как бомж, потому что многие умники спросили меня, а как ты была одета? Может, ты сама виновата, что он так сделал? Во-первых, я была в оверсайз спортивке. Во-вторых, даже если я буду в мини-юбке, он не имеет права приставать. Села я, по дороге прошу его заехать в Браву. Он меня... Такой сладкой девочке можно разве отказать? Это был первый звоночек, на который я не обратила внимания. Выглядел он достаточно нормально. Симпатичный 35-летний мужик. Доехали до Браво. Я все купила, села в машину. Едем обратно. Я надела наушники, мол, я не хочу с тобой разговаривать. Но нет, он заговорил. А я не могу неуважительно делать вид, что не слышу. Не знаю почему. Он начал, что у него 2 детей, мальчики и жена. Я сказала, Аллах согласен. И он продолжает говорить. Я реально не вникала, что он говорит, пока не услышала слово «минет», а использовалось это предложение в таком тексте: «Моя жена не делает меня минет, ведь жена святой. Может, мы с вами встретимся на едание?» И поворачивается ко мне, чтобы рассмотреть меня сверху донизу. Я в шоке сижу и думаю, что меня делать. На телефоне нет ни интернета, ни денег. Я понимаю, что позвонить я не могу. Окей, ударить я тоже не могу. Он в 3 раза больше меня. Остается одна. Молится. Я сижу, не двигаюсь, можно сказать, что не дышу. Он, кстати, продолжает говорить, мол, он Казанова. Пока девушка подо мной не кончит, я не успокоюсь. После того, что он меня предложил, конечно, это же цветочки. Но именно та фраза не давала мне покоя. Когда я видела, что он идет по адресу моему часту, не было предела, так как он мог завернуть куда угодно. Доезжая до места назначения, он, говоря что-то, повернулся и притянул руку, чтобы потрогать меня на ноги. Я сама не знаю как. На адреналине я ударила его руку, чтобы он не трогал меня. Он засмеялся. После этого я уже не могла не думать об изнасиловании. Что вот так это происходит. Что какой-то мерзкий мужик просто из-за того, что хочет куда-то засунуть свой член, губит жизнь девушкам. И вот, и мне досталось малый час. Выйдя из машины, он мне говорит, мол, мы же спишемся. Я ему говорю, да, конечно, лишь бы, чтобы не закрыл двери.
Now, as you can see, she was extremely lucky. However, there are so many women that are victims of sexual harassment and rape by these taxi app drivers, and unfortunately, no matter what you do, how much ever you complain, there is no justice. And the most that is going to happen is they're going to lose their right to create an account on that app ever again. But how do you know that they're not going to use another app? I have personally experienced sexual harassment by myself while using a taxi app. I've shared it on my Instagram in the past, and some of you might even text me and be like, Anjana, but you know, the subway services have this option where you can call the subway an hour in advance and tell them that, hey, I'm going to be traveling from here to here, I need assistance, and they'll basically send you a person or two to basically get into the subway. Now, why is that a thing? Why should we ask for assistance? That is something I failed to recognize for so many years. And I feel like I finally came to terms with it this year after I was sexually harassed by this taxi driver. I mean, it severely traumatized me, and it resulted in me developing this sort of anxiety to have to leave the house. I mean, I barely ever leave the house if it's not with my dad or with my friends. I have made sure all of my work is done from home. I have made sure I don't have to go anywhere for work. And I realized that I can't be living like this. And I came to this conclusion back in like August this year, and I don't know if you guys seen it on my social media, and that is that I have been accepted to MIUC. It's one of Marbella's top universities in Spain, so I'm really looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to moving there next year. I'm still raising funds. I'm going to leave my GoFundMe link in the description below for you guys to go and check out. And if you want to donate, you can, just to support me moving to a wheelchair accessible city, as well as being able to finally gain my education, because you guys know all of the fucking difficulties I faced to get into a university. So if you can, please do donate and share it with all of your family and friends so that they can donate too. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I really hope you enjoyed this video. I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.
They say I bang, they never toy with me.